clumsily imitating Jiang Li's maneuver. First, she formed a fist, then tentatively raised her thumb, wobbling it upright. Yes, just like that. Jiang Li encouraged with a smile. This gesture signifies a compliment. Splendid. The girl gazed at her own thumb, then looked back at Jiang Li's approving expression, seemingly grasping its meaning. She inhaled deeply, as if preparing for some solemn ritual, and made an effort to open her mouth, attempting to mimic Jiang Li's pronunciation from earlier. Very fat. The smile on Jiang Li's face instantly froze. She nearly choked on her own words. It's very good, not fat. Jiang Li corrected her with exasperation. Bang. Good. The girl gazed at her innocently, once again raising her thumb and proclaiming loudly, very fat. Jiang Li sighed. Forget it, let it be. Looking into the girl's pure, innocent eyes, she found it hard to inform her that the meanings of those two words were worlds apart. In a world where everyone was on the brink of starvation, perhaps being fat could be considered the highest form of praise? All right, I am very fat, Jiang Li conceded, rubbing the girl's head, surrendering to this doomed lesson in pronunciation. It seemed that bridging the chasm of language would require a much longer journey. She had initially intended to inquire about this little one's hardcore insights about the world, but now it appeared that would have to wait. After some mischief around the walls, the sky gradually darkened. The sunset over the icy plains held a breathtaking beauty. The blood-red remnants of the sun spilled across the snow, casting a golden hue upon the pristine stone walls. Jiang Li moved the 8 immortals table to the large window in the main house. The two of them enjoyed a simple dinner while admiring the splendid view. Here, Jiang Li said, spearing a piece of bread with her fork and offering it to the girl. She immediately opened her mouth wide with delight, chewing eagerly like a gluttonous little hamster. Observing this scene, Jiang Li suddenly realized something. Right, I still don't know your name. She set down her fork and pointed to herself, Jiang Li. Then she pointed at the girl. What about you? What is your name? The girl paused her chewing, looking at her with a hint of confusion. Jiang Li patiently repeated, name. I Jiang Li. You? The girl seemed to grasp it at last. She swallowed her food and vaguely uttered 2 syllables. N-I-Ka. Jiang Li furrowed her brow. That didn't sound like a name. It resembled a particle or some form of address. N-I-Ka? The girl repeated, pointing to herself. Jiang Li pondered for a moment. The pronunciation resembled a mechanical glitch, or perhaps the call of a small creature, which sounded rather odd. Glancing at the girl's pastel blue hair, adorned with little flowers that opened and closed with her mood, an idea suddenly struck her. Nico, Jiang Li tentatively called out. The girl tilted her head. Nico, Jiang Li affirmed, pointing at her with certainty. This is your name now. Nico, does it sound nice? In her previous world, it seemed a rather adorable name, symbolizing curiosity and change. Quite fitting for this little one who could transform and was filled with wonder about everything. The girl blinked her large eyes, softly murmuring the new words several times. Nico. Nico. Her eyes gradually brightened. She pointed to herself, looking excitedly at Jiang Li. Nico. Very fat. Jiang Li responded. Well, it seems we cannot escape this joke. After dinner, the sky outside had not yet fully darkened. Jiang Li was not idle. She took out the bag of wheat seeds she had exchanged earlier. Although she was unable to construct a greenhouse yet, and the planting box was insufficiently large, Jiang Li yearned to cultivate a small experimental plot at the base of the wall. After all, the temperature within the enclosure had significantly increased following the camp's upgrade. And with the constant warmth from the campfire, there was a possibility of nurturing some crops. Unfortunately, she had not fashioned a hoe. Jiang Li tapped her forehead, resolving to make do with what she had. She grasped the steel spear and moved to a vacant patch near the stone wall, preparing to act as a human tiller. However, the ground was frozen solid, as hard as iron. Clang! Jiang Li thrust the spear with all her might, turning up only a small amount of soil. This was exceedingly difficult. Jiang Li's lips twitched. No matter how strong she was, this laborious task of digging was too taxing. Just as she was about to abandon her efforts and return to the tool shed to craft a hoe, her companion, Nico, suddenly approached. Observing Jiang Li's struggle, she tilted her head, seemingly comprehending her intentions. A familiar glow flickered to life once more. In the next moment, the massive brown bear reappeared. It lumbered to the designated patch of ground, raising its colossal paws, akin to excavator buckets. With a swish, the brown bear, striking with both paws, began to dig at an astonishing speed. Soil erupted like a fountain, flying in all directions. In just a few minutes, a neatly formed rectangle of soft earth emerged before Jiang Li. She stared, dumbfounded, at the scene unfolding. Is this the correct way to utilize Nico? Watching her transform back into human form, standing at the edge of the field, eagerly seeking praise, Jiang Li could not help but swallow hard. This was incredibly efficient. If she had more seeds in the future, it would be delightful to have her transform into a water buffalo for plowing. Cough cough. Jiang Li quickly dismissed such nefarious capitalist thoughts. Nico, you are amazing, she exclaimed, wholeheartedly giving a thumbs up. Nico beamed with delight, her eyes crinkling in joy, mimicking Jiang Li's gesture and exclaiming with clarity, very plump. As night deepened, within the stone enclosure, a warm campfire cast flickering shadows of the two companions upon the wall. Chapter 22. The adventure in the underground city. The plot of land excavated by Nico's bare paws was astonishingly soft. Jiang Li scattered the entire bag of modest wheat seeds across the ground, lightly covering them with a layer of soil. After completing her task, she dusted off her hands. Gazing at this small patch of earth that held the promise of future hopes, her heart filled with both anticipation and uncertainty. In this frigid apocalypse, no one could ascertain the survival rate of these ordinary seeds. Nico had returned to her human form, curiously squatting by the field, delicately prodding the dark soil with her fair fingers, seemingly eager to discover what magic lay hidden within. Whether they could thrive depended on luck, Jiang Li mused softly. In her backpack, she still had the fertilizer she had obtained earlier, though it was limited in quantity. Before ascertaining whether the wheat seeds would germinate, she was reluctant to squander such a precious resource. The finest steel should be reserved for the sharpest blade. She decided to concentrate on fertilizing only after confirming the emergence of seedlings. Having completed her agricultural tasks, Jiang Li took a seat on a nearby stool to rest. She observed Nico, who was brimming with curiosity about everything, and the question regarding transformation resurfaced in her mind. Thus, Jiang Li initiated a form of sign language communication with Nico. She first mimicked the shape of a cat, then imitated a bear's roar, followed by a gesture that depicted a rolling stone, and finally pointed at Nico, her eyes reflecting a questioning gaze. What else can you transform into? Nico watched Jiang Li's somewhat comical gestures and burst into laughter. She seemed to grasp Jiang Li's intent, but did not transform immediately. After a moment's hesitation, she cautiously approached Jiang Li and extended her fair hand, pausing in front of her, her vibrant green eyes filled with inquiry and anticipation. Jiang Li was momentarily taken aback, staring at the small hand suspended in midair. Do you wish to touch me? Nico nodded vigorously, her gaze clear and sincere. Jiang Li chuckled softly. What is the harm? If you wish to touch, then do so, she said gently, even leaning forward slightly. With permission granted, Nico seemed to exhale in relief. She reached out and lightly placed her palm against Jiang Li's body. At the moment of contact, a gentle, pale green light emanated from Nico's palm, swiftly coursing up Jiang Li's arm. Immediately afterward, Nico stepped back and closed her eyes. Jiang Li watched her with curiosity, uncertain of what was to unfold. In the next instant, Nico's form was enveloped in a rich green glow. Within the radiance, her shape began to undergo dramatic transformation, with her hair color and length changing rapidly. When the light dissipated, Jiang Li found herself utterly astonished. Standing before her was a perfect replica of herself, identical in height, face, and even wearing the same durable work attire. Were it not for the innocence and curiosity still present in the other Jiang Li's eyes, she might have thought she was gazing into a mirror. Jiang Li was so stunned that words escaped her. Are you saying that once you have touched someone, you can become their likeness? She gestured to herself and then to Nico, disbelief etched across her features. The other Jiang Li nodded. Then, with some difficulty, she began to gesture again, pointing to her own head and then mimicking an exhausted collapse onto the ground. Jiang Li, piecing it together, surmised, this transformation cannot last indefinitely. It drains your energy, correct? The other Jiang Li nodded again, and in a flash of light, she reverted back to the adorable girl with pink-blue hair. A thin sheen of sweat glistening on her forehead, indicating that the transformation had taken a considerable toll on her. The energy expenditure of transforming into a human was evidently greater than that of transforming into an animal. Jiang Li gazed at her, breathless, her mind swirling with tumultuous thoughts. This ability was nothing short of extraordinary. Despite the constraints of time and energy, this ability proves to be an extraordinary skill in critical moments, whether for stealth reconnaissance or to confound adversaries. Moreover, her transformation encompasses more than mere appearance. As dusk gradually descends, the last remnants of sunlight are devoured by the horizon, and that familiar, heart-stirring roar echoes once more from beyond the encampment. The undead have resurfaced. Yet this time, as she hears the faint scratching sounds muffled by thick stone walls, Jiang Li's heart remains unperturbed. Let them scratch. Their hands will only wear away against the walls without gaining entry. Having completed her tasks, Jiang Li first approached the campfire, diligently stuffing enough firewood into the hearth to sustain a blaze for 3 days, ensuring that fuel concerns would not distract her in the days to come. Following this, she summoned Nico to wash up. Teaching Nico to utilize modern bathing facilities was an exceptionally amusing endeavor. Fortunately, Nico was quite intelligent. After a few demonstrations from Jiang Li, she swiftly learned how to brush her teeth and wash her face independently. Once they were both refreshed, they donned clean pajamas and retreated to the warm master bedroom. Given the system's unsettling surprise prompt, Jiang Li was particularly cautious that night. She preemptively switched her title back to super unlucky, and did not remove the pioneer's wrist guard from her wrist. The gleaming Riftwind twin axes were placed within easy reach at her bedside, just in case a monster were to loom at the foot of her bed come morning. Preparation is the key to success. Neglect leads to failure. Nico seemed to sense Jiang Li's subtle tension. Instead of her usual curious exploration of the room, she thoughtfully transformed back into her diminutive white cat form, gracefully leaping onto the bed and curling up beside Jiang Li's pillow, quietly closing her eyes like a fluffy little ball. Outside, the wind howled and the undead roared. Within, their breaths were steady, and warmth enveloped them like spring. The following day, perhaps due to her subconscious fixation on the 8 o'clock event, Jiang Li awoke shortly after 7. Though the hour was still early, having retired early the night prior. The absence of short video platforms consuming her nighttime hours allowed her to adopt a healthier lifestyle, marked by the rhythm of sunrise and sunset. She felt invigorated, even more so than after a full 8 hours of rest in her previous world. She opened the regional chat channel, and as expected, several early risers were already conversing. With less than an hour remaining, her heart raced in anticipation. Last night, she had tirelessly set up traps around the encampment, hoping they would prove effective. Brothers, regardless of what activity unfolds, remember that we are human. Let us lend a helping hand wherever possible. To the saint upstairs. Now you think of helping? But who was it that mocked me when I sought assistance yesterday? Jiang Li glanced through the messages before closing the panel. Rising from her bed, she stepped outside. Stretching widely, the crisp morning air instantly rejuvenated her. As was her routine, she strolled around the courtyard. The stone walls stood resolute, and the campfire blazed brightly. In the newly cultivated field, the falling snowflakes melted